Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to MindShifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeanie. Michael and Jeanie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rahma. Michael is the author of So Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael and Jeanie Ryce.
To the brightness within you, and the truth that is rooted within me.
Hi, and welcome to MindShifters Radio. And today, Michael is actually on an airplane in the air, and so he's on his way to Fort Lauderdale. So he's not with us today, but Dr. Tim is. And today is Memorial Day Celebration 222, and this is talking about taking care of whatever is in us that is less than love, that will take us out of that space, and once we have enough people to do that and create critical mass to create peace on the planet. There's several people in the chat room today. Welcome. Several people on the switchboard. Everybody has their hand up, but Dr. Tim, how are you today?
Doing well, Jeanie. Thank you. And I suppose we should clarify, yesterday someone actually asked in the chat room, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Somebody asked in the chat room, is this a rerun? Why are we talking about Memorial Day? And the reason we're talking about Memorial Day is to honor everyone who's ever lost a loved one to war, been hurt or injured in a war, been forced to hurt or kill or injure someone else in a war. And the way we're going to honor all of those people is by accepting the responsibility to take one thing in my life today that stirs up upset of any kind, fear, pain, sadness, anger, hurt, resentment, guilt, shame, blame, and remove it. I'm going to remove it using a tool called forgiveness. And this tool called forgiveness is made available to us from ancient wisdom, and that ancient wisdom has been brought back to our awareness, and Dr. Michael Ryce has it on his website at www.whyagain.com. And the tool for forgiveness is presented through the Reality Management Worksheet, and if you go to that website and click on the right-hand side link that says Download Worksheets, the first 3 or 4 or 5 links there give you everything you need to begin to learn about and apply the tool of forgiveness, which is a tool that lets me go inside myself to where I'm holding any form of hostility or fear or any of the variations of it that we've learned to develop over the lifetime in our cultures: sadness, blame, irritation, hurt, fear, anger. And one by one, as each of us meet this commitment to remove one more piece of the energy that's less than love from our systems, all that's going to be left is the energy of love. And when we're in touch with, directly in touch with, consciously aware of that energy of love, we're back in touch with our true heritage as a human life. What is that true heritage as a human life? Well, in order to get in touch with it, the best thing to do is find a newborn child. Find your most vivid memory of ever having held a newborn child. That energy, that innocence, that power of creativity, that's what goes way beyond words, but it's what we're referring to when we say a human life and the energy of love. and we're only using some words to try and point at the concept. There are no words to describe what love is and what love means. So in this work, we're referring to it as the energy we're made of and the innocence and power and creativity of a newborn human. And we invite people to remove anything from their mind or their body's energy system which is less than that love, less than that energy. And we invite people to try to live up to the challenge that in each moment when they can be consciously aware, when they're faced with a decision about a word or an action, to ask themselves whether or not this action that I'm about to do, this thought that I'm holding on to, these words I'm about to speak, could they possibly come from that loving energy of a newborn infant? And if not, then don't do it. So that's the beginning. That's why we're talking about Memorial Day, because it is our belief, our understanding that if we remove everything that's less than love, all that's left is the energy of love, and that's energy of creation. It's the energy of peace and acceptance. And when that happens, there won't be any more war. So if each of us takes responsibility for our own creative power and how we create our experience in each moment, and we do that by the choice of focus for our conscious awareness in each moment. And if each of us take responsibility for that and choose to focus our conscious awareness on our true source as love and that essence of a human life, which is that energy, that creative energy expressing through us, then our experience will be different and we will positively affect everyone around us. So that's the beginning of the work. And a couple days ago, we were beginning to hear feedback and comments from people who had joined in the challenge to do 5 worksheets a day for 40 days. And we heard some powerful testimonials. We heard a nice long letter from a woman in, I believe she was in Florida, which basically just summarized everything she's learned about herself and about the work that Dr. Ryce teaches in the last 40 days. And I didn't talk too much about my experience. I did it. I made the attempt to do 5 worksheets a day for 40 days and be held accountable by an accountability partner. And in the course of the first few weeks, as powerful worksheets came up, I shared them. But I haven't done the recap of what the overall experience was like. And I think my short summary statement would be, it was life-changing. It just further reinforced for me the power of this work and the need for me to keep the focus of my conscious awareness on myself to monitor any early warning signs of upset, fear, sadness, hurt, shame, inadequacy, failure, and go looking for those sources and dismantle them. And because I had set my commitment to do that, I activated what is called in the neurosciences my reticular activating system. And the reticular activating system is a part of the brain which helps us select what we're going to choose to focus our awareness on in each moment. Now, that's a big word, reticular activating system. But a personal experience of this is available to almost any adult who's ever purchased a new car or a new used car. And if you've never driven a Jeep before, or if you've never driven a Chrysler before, and all of a sudden you buy a car from Jeep, and let's say you buy a Cherokee, a Jeep Cherokee, you have probably noticed that it seems as though your entire neighborhood and everywhere you have to drive is all of a sudden flooded with Jeep Cherokees. And the fact of the matter is, there aren't more Jeep Cherokees there than there were before you got your Jeep Cherokee. It's just that now you're noticing them everywhere you go. Most adults who've had a car have experienced this, and we laugh about it, and we say, "Isn't it? It's odd, I'm seeing Jeep Cherokees everywhere I go." Or if I get a Chrysler minivan, wow, I'm starting to see Chrysler minivans everywhere I go. Or a Honda CRV, wow, all of a sudden there's Honda CRVs everywhere I go. Well, the truth, the actuality is the same number of cars plus one are in my neighborhood. I just added mine. But now I'm seeing them everywhere I go. So there are two important points here. One of them is I am now seeing Hondas and CRVs everywhere I go if I'm driving a Honda CRV. But the other really important point is that I'm actively screening out many other things. If Dr. Ryce talks about how in our conscious awareness, we've got about 9 bits of information that we can hold in any one moment in time. 9 bits of information when there are 10,000 bits processed by my mind, by my brain at that time. And in that same time frame, there are 20 trillion bits available for my brain to choose from to select the 10,000 it's going to be aware of. And then I select 9 out of that. Well, if I'm all of a sudden noticing Honda CRVs everywhere I go because I just took delivery of a used Honda CRV, and now that's what I'm driving, what is it that I used to pay attention to before I saw all those Honda CRVs there that I'm not seeing anymore? It's a fascinating question, and it's a real important one for us to look at. So I made the commitment to do 5 worksheets a day for 40 days and try and bring my energy to bear on that task, and I didn't go to part-time work. I didn't quit my job. I didn't shut out all my other relationships. So this is something I was adding to my regular life. And I didn't consciously say, I'm going to quit noticing how attractive my partner is, or how warm the weather is today, or how many Hondas I see. But because I chose to focus on 5 worksheets a day for 40 days, I did severely restrict my perception of other events. So I highlighted a certain area, and by necessity I had to restrict observation in other areas, because there's only 9 bits available in any moment in time for my conscious mind to focus on. And that was quite an interesting exercise for me. That helped me understand how much energy it takes me truly to focus on myself and my reactions. And as I said, my short summary is it was life-changing. It was life-changing because I realized I'm not spending as much energy as I thought I was day to day, focused on myself and my reactions. And if I'm going to reach the goals that I have, I need to spend more energy focused on that. And it made me reevaluate what I hold dear. What are my true priorities? How much time am I wasting on surfing the internet or getting distracted with unimportant articles or whatever the random tasks may be? I don't have television, so I don't spend time doing that. But so when I set my goal, that's only one step in the process. Then I have to focus my mind and my intentions so that my reticular activating system, the part of my mind that chooses what I pay attention to, is in line with what I say my goals and my priorities are. And this 5 worksheets a day for 40 days really opened my eyes about some areas maybe I don't need to, but I can improve in keeping the focus on myself, the early warning signs of my upset, and the gift of lightness and clarity that comes when I do that is well worth the effort spent. So, if you're interested, you can look up the reticular activating system. You can Google it. There's also a fascinating video about people playing catch, and you're being asked to track how many times that the team with, say, the red shirts is touching the ball as it's passing back and forth. And it's quite a challenge with all the activity going on to focus your attention on how many times the red team touches the ball. And again, it's just a test and experience of the reticular activating system. And we need to highlight the fact that, especially with our commitment to honoring Memorial Day, and anybody who's ever suffered or been forced to kill someone in war, that we choose to focus on whatever is in us that is less than love, that is of hostility and fear. And rather than just focus on it, we're agreeing to the commitment to apply a tool called forgiveness to that upset to remove it from our systems. That's what this work's about. Thank you for listening and joining us today. And we'd love it if you'd call in. The number is 646-200-4169. And if you call in to listen, you can just sit and listen. But if you have a question or a comment, you can press 1, and that'll let Jeanie know that you'd like to talk. And we're very interested in hearing questions about the worksheet process. We're interested in hearing your success stories. We're interested in hearing where you may be stuck in the process. And I believe the lines are open. So comments or questions, Jeanie, from anyone?
Our call-in number is 646-200-4169, and press 1 if you want to talk. We don't have anybody with their hand up. I did get an email from someone yesterday after the show, and they're talking about being in another abusive relationship, that they realize that that's a pattern in their life of rescuing people, and they seem to always choose to rescue an alcoholic. But then their language goes on that they don't want to do that again, and they don't want. So perhaps we can talk a little bit about where their focus is what they're going to create. So saying what they don't want, they're going to get exactly what they don't want.
Yep, that's right on target. We have to understand that our unconscious mind doesn't recognize the negatives. It doesn't recognize no and not and don't and stop. It recognizes the affirmative. So if I say, I want this person to stop picking on me, I'm simply energetically, I'm telling my mind and I'm telling that person, pick on me.
Right.
One of the things that Michael frequently uses when he's talking to someone like that is, if they call in rather than just write the email, it's so informative to listen to the patterns. And when people say, well, I'm not having any fear or anger about this issue, that tells us that's exactly what they're having about this issue. And we had this come up in the group on Tuesday. A woman was talking about how she doesn't want anger and resentment in her relationship of 30-some years. And she wants to know how she can stop being so angry and resentful about this relationship. And so we gave her a mind shifter that said, it's safe and healing for me to be loving and open and connected in this relationship. And she burst into tears and couldn't even write that out. She could talk for 20 minutes about how she wants to get rid of the anger and the resentment in the relationship, but she couldn't even say once that I want to be loving and close and connected in this relationship. So that would be the beginning of our feedback to this person in the email. The other thing I have to say is, as a psychologist who with over 37 years of experience in doing different types of therapy, people frequently come in and they tell me, there's something wrong with my intuition. There's something wrong with my internal radar. I keep picking these abusive relationships. And I ask them to tell me more about it. And they go on to detail how for the past 3 or 5 or 17 times they've chosen a relationship, they end up with, thinking it's going to be great in the beginning, and then they all turn sour, and they all have the same kind of abusive pattern. In this case, the email you're talking about, the person's choosing someone who's alcoholic. When they get done explaining the situation to me, I tell them there's absolutely nothing wrong with their intuition and their internal radar, because they're accurately picking the same kind of person every single time. So they're batting 1,000. They're on target every single time they pick, because they're picking exactly the same person. And it's their intuition and their unconscious that's choosing the same kind of person every time, regardless of what that person wants to show them on the surface. They're able to see through it, see past it, and get the same kind of person with the same kind of bag of garbage every time. And they look at me horrified, and I say, well, there really isn't a problem with your intuition or your internal radar. The problem lies in how you've learned to label and interpret the signals that your intuition and your radar give you. So let's say that someone with an abusive alcoholic background shows up on my internal radar as an orange triangle. And somebody who's kind of safe and kind of a bland history in their family and not a very dynamic person, but certainly not abusive and, somewhat emotionally available, shows up as a blue square. And somebody who would be a really good match for me for a very intense, loving relationship to help me stretch and grow and become the kind of person I want to be shows up like a red circle. But because I grew up in a family where there was alcoholism and abuse, I'm really familiar with and comfortable around people that make these orange triangles show up on my radar. So as I'm an adult and I'm out and I say I want something different and I'm looking at people, the ones that I have a comfortable, familiar feeling with are the ones that show up like this orange triangle on my radar. Now, they're not showing me when I'm in the first few times I'm dating them or I'm meeting them at a party. They're not showing me that they're going to be angry and resentful and drunk and emotionally unavailable. What they're showing me in the party is that they have traveled the world and they've got plenty of money and they think I'm sexy, and that's what they show me. They show me all their good traits up front. Never mind that they don't have them. They're showing me all their good traits. And my radar, my internal intuition, can see past all of that, identify the familiar orange triangle, and have me be attracted to them. Now, that's how I've talked about this to people for years. And we work on trying to identify the patterns and the internal feelings I come up and have people do experiential exercises to go back to relive, to visualize the first time they saw somebody and felt that energy of attraction, and we work with it that way. Now, since meeting Dr. Michael Ryce and being introduced to his work, I've learned to talk about it at an entirely different level. And Dr. Ryce might talk about this as though God is good, the universe is there to help me heal, and the universe knows I have unresolved energy in me about people who are alcoholic and abusive, and if I hide that energy from myself rather than doing the proactive work of removing it from my system and getting rid of it with a tool like the forgiveness tool, then it's just going to sit in my system, and it's a disintegrative energy. It doesn't belong in me, and the longer I hold that disintegrative energy in my energy system, the more it degrades the energy system. The more it degrades the energy system, the more it breaks down my physical tissue, and eventually I end up with physical dis-ease. And the universe doesn't want me to be dis-eased. It doesn't want me to be sick. It doesn't want me to be angry. It doesn't want me to be hurt. God, the creative energy force, that doesn't want me to be anything but that perfect, balanced energy of the newborn child. So the universe, the energy system, keeps sending me people which will stir up my attraction to them, to show up as an orange triangle in my internal radar, or to have me be attracted to them so I can play out this dynamic until it finally hits me that, oh, I've got issues here that I'm holding on to, that I haven't resolved. I have energies buried in my system that I haven't looked at from when I grew up in this family where there was alcoholism and abuse. And until I clean those energies out of my system, the universe, the creative energy force, the resonance of energy in life is going to keep sending me people that can stir up that energy so it comes up in my face, so it screams at me, hey, Tim, you've got a problem. You've got anger, you've got fear, you've got resentment, you've got blame, you've got bitterness in you that's eating you up from the inside out. And no amount of ignoring it, no amount of drinking to forget, no amount of buying stuff you don't need, no amount of thrill-seeking at high rates of speed or diving off cliffs and adrenaline rushes is going to get rid of this for you. It's just going to bury it deeper. And the longer it's buried deep, the more damage it does to your energy system, and we don't want you to be damaged, so we're going to bring you people, we're going to bring you situations, we're going to bring you thoughts and interactions with the people in your life to stir it up. And this is not punishing you, Tim. This is a gift to reveal to you the energy in your system that's less than love that you need to release, you need to dismantle, so that you can once again clearly, easily, and without disruption, focus your conscious awareness on your source as the creative energy of love. I don't know, Jeanie, did I answer the question?
You did, absolutely.
Sometimes,
and we do have a caller with their hand up, so you must have stirred up something there.
Sometimes we get on a roll. Okay, let's talk to our
cool.
caller.
That's very cool. Area code 607, you're on the air. Who do we have?
It's Richard. How is everybody?
Hi,
Richard. Doing good.
Thanks for calling.
Hey, Tim. I was late getting on, and I just caught the end of you talking about the reticular activating system, and so I was curious if you have to talk it over again. I apologize, but I'd sort of like to hear what you were talking about.
Well, I brought it up as a part of my awareness of the process, my process of doing 5 worksheets a day for 40 days, and the reticular activating system being the part of my brain that focuses in on something that I've decided is really important. And so I made the decision to focus in on doing 5 worksheets a day for 40 days, and since I've only got 9 bits available to me in any given moment of time, that means I have to push something else out of the way. And are you familiar with the concept of the reticular activating system?
Well, you'll have to remind me again. I do know about the reticular activating system. I just don't remember the details.
It's the idea that if I take possession of a new or used Honda CR-V in the next week or two, I'm seeing Honda CR-Vs everywhere. And I could swear that Honda must have put on a massive marketing and sales campaign in my neighborhood, because now they're just everywhere.
I understand what you're saying. In other words,
the actuality is there's only one additional Honda CR-V in the neighborhood, and it's mine. You know, the number of CR-Vs didn't increase by 1,400; it increased by 1. But
right.
Because I'm in one, that's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm seeing.
Okay.
And the corollary to that is that it's really a great exercise to slow down and realize, what am I not seeing now that I was seeing when I didn't see all these Honda CR-Vs? How much less of my attention is going to pedestrians on the sidewalk and changes in storefronts and, traffic patterns? Because now I'm using that 9-bit mind to track, oh my God, out of the corner of my eye, look, there's a green CR-V, and right behind us a yellow and a white one in it. So that's the reticular activating system, and it's a really good exercise to be aware of it, and then to use it positively for my needs. So I agreed to do the 5 worksheets a day for 40 days, and to really pay attention to what issues I wanted to do the worksheets on. What were my reasons for deciding I don't want to do a worksheet today? What were the emotions that would come up when I was tired and I still had worksheets to do? And because I was focusing on that and using, my brain power and my reticular activating system, I learned a lot about how, if I really want to reach the goals I want to reach, that that I say I want to reach, if I really have them as a priority, I need to spend more energy looking inside, monitoring my awareness, and applying the tools to get rid of everything that's less than love. So that's the short summary.
Okay, well, thanks, and I appreciate that. Been talking about not seeing things, and I was listening to a talk last night, and I can't remember exactly what the title was at this point. But it was this guy who was he brought out a new book, and he obviously has dealt with or has studied a lot of hypnotists in the past. And he talked about this one hypnotist who had hypnotized this guy and literally told him that when he brought him out of the hypnotic state, that he would not be able to see his daughter right in front of him. And so he did that, and the guy could not see the daughter right in front of him. Literally could not see her. And he then took a pocket watch and put it behind, slipped it out quickly out of his pocket and put it behind this person's back and asked the person to read the time. And he was able to read the time through his daughter, even though she was standing there right in front of him and he didn't see her. Can you believe that? That was pretty wild.
Sounds like a wonderful exercise.
Anyway, so when you were talking about not seeing things and the reticular activating system, then obviously this must be part of the system that gets activated in the hypnotist. And when you're hypnotized, of not being able to see something or whatever.
Well, and it feeds into a discussion that Dr. Ryce has had a number of times before. There's a chapter of a book on the CIA website that talks about, I believe the title of the chapter is, Why Can't We See What Is There to Be Seen? And the article is about what an active process perception is. We're taught to believe that it's passive. I wake up in the morning, I open my eyes, and I see what's going on in front of me. And it's the world acting on me. They have very solid research. And your example of the hypnotist is just another example. My idea of getting a Honda CR-V and all of a sudden seeing them where I hadn't seen them before is another example. That we are actively screening out and choosing what we're going to let into our eyesight and our ears hearing every moment. When we put on a wool sweater in the morning and it itches, and 15 minutes later we're walking out the door and we're not feeling the itch. But 16 hours later we go to bed, we pull the sweater off and we start itching and scratching again. What happened to the itch? Well, the offering for awareness is that the itch was always there, but our mind adjusted it out of awareness. We have a very active process of perception that we have been fooled into thinking is a passive process. There's a movie called The Thin Blue Line, and this is it's a documentary about a man who was falsely imprisoned and how the documentary actually helped him get released from prison. But I was listening to an interview from a filmmaker about the movie, and he said the fascinating thing for him was about the milkshake. In the story of this crime that happened and all these different eyewitnesses that testified in the trial, they talked about what happened to this milkshake, and everybody saw something different. And the bottom line is, if all of these eyewitness observers to this event couldn't even agree on what happened with the milkshake, how could they agree enough about what this person did to put him in prison? And eventually, the film and the work that it inspired helped release that man who was falsely imprisoned and elicit what do you call it when he an admission of guilt, an admission of guilt from the actual person who committed the crime.
Oh, okay.
A confession. That's the word I was looking for. So a thin blue line. I'm told, I haven't seen it yet. It's on my Netflix list. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to watch for all of these. The filmmaker made a video of the milkshake from all of the eyewitness stories of what happened to the milkshake, and so you just keep seeing the scene play out with the milkshake doing all of these different things that people swore it did.
Right.
And
I've seen the movie. It was a long time ago, so I don't remember. I don't even recall if it had the milkshake in it. So that tells you about what I remember or what was activated for me. But the other thing that I just, because of what we were talking about here, I just wanted to, our awareness, because our brain, our skin tissue is developed from the same endoderm that the brain is developed from the same tissue. So really, our skin is the outside of our brain, so to speak. And our tissue, we have the sensory part coming up and the motor part going down. So we are a sensing being, and so if bringing awareness into our body is really about coming into awareness where you're using all the senses of our being. So it's not just our eyes; it's our touch, our smell, our taste. Everything plays into feeding information into the brain, and then our response to that goes out through the system right in front of that, the motor system. So we, in essence, are basically sensing and responding beings, just like every other living organism on the earth. And so it gives new meaning to the term sentient being, all sentient beings.
it's a lot to think about.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, if they're able to experience or relate to the environment at any level, then there's more intelligence there than we would normally give them credit for, or give it, if we're talking about a thing. It reminds me of the work of Bruce Lipton, who says that as a cellular biologist, he has demonstrated that every cell in the human body has its own level of intelligence. And by that he means it knows how to move toward those areas that are safe and toward nutrition, and move away from physical and chemical threat. It's making choices. And further, that the seat of the intelligence in each cell isn't in the nucleus, it's contained in the membrane.
Right. And so in that sense, the membrane of the cell is the same as the skin of our organism, of us. It's sensing and responding, its outer layer is the brain of, the outer skin of the brain of the cell.
Exactly. So that's why your comments made me think of it.
Right.
That there's a whole different level. And the other thing that he gets at with his work is that the intelligence isn't coming from inside the cell.
Correct.
It's an energy awareness that's coming from outside the cell, and the cell is responding to comments or commands or instructions energetically. And he goes on to say that this is about establishing an awareness of a new science called metagenetics or epigenetics, which he believes contradicts and dismisses the primacy of DNA and the theory of the primacy of DNA, which says essentially, I'm the product of my DNA, that my DNA is what the pattern of my DNA was laid out, and that's what I develop into, and I'm the product of my DNA. He says, this is Bruce Lipton again, who says his work leads to the very solid conclusion that I'm the architect of my DNA. What my mental, emotional energy chooses to focus on, or what I choose to focus my mental, emotional energy on, literally determines how my genetics will express.
Right.
Both in health and disease and what we've traditionally thought of as just inherited characteristics. So it's a fascinating set of conclusions he reaches through hard science observations of human cells, one cell at a time.
So I just remembered that name of the book since you were talking about that there's a field outside that's feeding into the system, and then the name of the book is called The Source Field Investigations. It was just brought out here recently, back in the end of 2011. So you might want to check that out.
Okay, can you say it again? It's The Source Field Investigations?
Correct.
Do you remember the author?
Oh boy, no, I don't. It's not on my not in my brain right now.
All right. Well, I'll look it up based on the title, and I appreciate it.
I think it's Wilcox or something like that. I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm sure if you just Google the Source Field Investigations, it'll come up for you.
Very
easily.
good. I'll do that. Any other comments or questions, Richard?
No, I think we hit the topic pretty good there, and I appreciate the conversation. And I'll talk to you later. Have a good day.
Very good. Thanks, Richard. It's always good to hear from you. Thanks for calling.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay,
Jeanie, any other
good.
questions or comments?
No, we don't, but David is on the line with us now.
David, welcome.
Hello.
Hello, David.
Hi.
Hello. Ken, how are you doing?
Well, I'm doing well. How's the show going?
Well, it's going pretty well. I'm was at a dental appointment, so I wasn't able to be on for the beginning of the show. I got in a little bit later on, so just listening in, seeing how things are. Michael must be on a plane, huh?
That's what we hear.
Yeah, cool.
So, did you hear my comments about the 5 worksheets a day for 40 days? The reticular activating system, or any of that?
I hear your comments on the 5 worksheets for 40 days. How was that for you, doing that and having a partner and connecting with them on a daily basis?
Well,
did you do it?
My short summary was life-changing, and then the long summary went into all kinds of stuff about what happens when I train my brain to pay attention to certain things. And so I won't go through that again because I've already done the explanation twice. So for people in the archives, they can look that up. But it's very powerful and positive.
Good.
And the key for me was to just realize, despite all of the energy that I think I spend focused on my internal awareness, it's not as much as it can be, and it's not as much as I want it to be. So there's more work to do.
Yeah, well, to me, the whole purpose and intention around doing the 5 worksheets a day for 40 days, in addition to doing that, because there's been lots of people that I know that have committed to say that they're going to do 5 worksheets for 40 days. There have been lots of people that have come here for an intensive that have spent 9 days up to 65 days and have all of this wonderful intention of when they leave here that they're going to go do 5 worksheets for 40 days. I've met no one that has done, well, I take it back. There's only one person that I know of, 2 now that you have done it. There's only one person that left the intensive that kept that agreement that I know of. And I find that always really interesting, especially when people come here to do an intensive and they have this awakening and this great understanding and touch into the true nature of who it is and take charge of their life. And they make an agreement with themselves. They may even tell someone else that they're going to do that because they have told lots of people, I'm going to do that. And as soon as they leave, it's gone. They may do it for a day or two, then after that. The key to completing this and doing the 5 days, the 5 for 40 days, is to have someone to contact on a daily basis. That's the biggest part of the agreement, because that's what builds the trust and keeps the, as you talk about, the awareness there. This is what I'm looking for. This is what I'm doing. This is what I've agreed to. We've often talked about what trust is, and people trusting themselves. I think I made mention of this on the radio the other day about my cousin that was talking about making New Year's resolutions. So this is day 6 of 2012, and I'll bet that there have been millions and millions of people that have made a New Year's resolution, and that there's millions and millions of people that have already broken that resolution. Why? Well, just like what you're talking about with the reticular activator, and it's out of their consciousness, or at least their consciousness is now filled up with all these other activities. To have someone that's really willing to support and hold them accountable for making an agreement and keeping that is where the real strength, from my perceptions of it, is in keeping that agreement. So, congratulations on keeping the agreement, and in addition to doing the 5 worksheets of 40 days of making the contact with someone, because I think that's, to me, that's what's crucial to all of it. There's been lots of people that I know that I heard on the radio that said that they were going to do 5 worksheets a day. The radio show went over, and I never heard from them. So that's how quickly it goes.
Well, it's true. It's, as Michael says from the African proverb, if you want to go far, go together. If you want to go quickly, go alone.
Yeah, and with this here, going quickly, it's over quick. You know, some people may use a comparison. Oh, well, this person's like doing a mile hike, and without other people with them, they can get there quicker. There are certain things that we do on our own, and in order to even go any distance at all, sometimes we need the support of other people. At least that's my experience with it. Without support from other people, I would have stopped doing this work a long time ago. It's the reason that I came to Heartland. It's the reason I was here. And I put myself in this environment that it's imperative that I do it every day. I'm conscious of it. I'm in that environment to do it. So it is with everything.
Well, and as we talk about, this show, the Internet show, was created with the idea of supporting people who want to do this work and or start their own group or add new vitality to a group they've started. And it just can't be overstated. We had 12 people in the group on Tuesday, and the energy that gets created when you've got a group like that became very, very evident. And a brave soul decided to speak up about a long-term relationship, and we did a little bit of piece of work with her and holding her in support as she did some process work, and tears came up and emotions came up, and then the person sitting next to her, one person over, erupted in emotion and did a chunk of work, and while he was working, the person immediately to his right had some tears and emotion and started working, and it just started to ripple around the room.
Yeah.
And the issue that we bring up that we're afraid to talk about because we think, gee, it's going to be a stupid question, or I'm sure nobody else struggles with this, or I'm sure everybody else understands this but me. That's exactly the question that needs to be raised, not just for me, but for millions of other people.
Yeah, I agree with you, Tim. And the key to it is that to just push through and do it. That, to me, that's just the mind. Anytime that when I make a decision about doing anything, automatically my mind comes up with all of its considerations and reasons and justifications. And that's the one, to me, that's just been that the culture has bought into and that the mind has bought into, that, oh, well, I don't want to seem foolish. Whenever that I'm saying that, I know that that's just my carbon-based memory. That's just my non-being mind coming up with an excuse and a reason. And it's accepted throughout the culture. Well, that's the reason that I didn't do that. And that's a lie. That's not the reason. The reason that it didn't do that is because of the fact that it was unwilling to do it. That's the only reason. The excuse that the mind comes up with, because it has to come up with a justification. Oh, I feel embarrassed to do that. So, what difference does it matter? If I use that as an excuse and a reason, it will always win out. I came up with my newest little thought, one of my little phrases, key phrases. You know, we've heard this many times about the definition of insanity, to keep doing the same thing over and over and expect to get different results. Einstein's definition of insanity. And there's this question that has been proposed. Do you know what you get when you keep thinking? Do you know what happens when you keep thinking the same thoughts? You keep thinking the same thoughts. You just keep thinking the same thoughts. So shift and change the thought. As soon as I change my thought, then there is an automatic shift that goes on. So,
and what we're asking, and what we're supporting and suggesting for people is that they shift their behavior to match their thoughts. And there's a note in the chat room that says area code 954 is on the air. If you're there still,
folks, do you hear me?
Go ahead. Who is it? Area code 954.
Hello?
Is that Nene?
Hi. Yeah. Hello, my heart family.
Hello, Nene.
Hi. Well, I wanted to also share my experience with the 40-day that we did together. And for me, I'm noticing that throughout the year, and especially the past 2 months, not only I've been healing my relationships, through my relationships, but also I'm starting to create new patterns or new ways to relate. That has been very critical, very dramatic, but positively in my life.
Do you want to say more about that?
Sure. It's just that I wasn't that sure of the time, but sure. Saying that because I was in a relationship, for me, the pattern that I had in my mind unconsciously was that being in a relationship, romantic relationship, was about taking care of the other person and just being like a mat. So just like a burden. It was a burden for me, and of course that's what I manifested. And then I see my shift into being more proactive and more sharing about more. I'm bringing people and situations where I'm sharing and more participants in the relationship.
So in the past, you saw yourself as a burden?
No, myself or my partner, my husband. In my past relationships, I one time I became somebody with a big, heavy weight. That was the relationship, was a job for me, was work, was a burden, was very heavy.
Okay, and now you're moving towards the view of a relationship as what?
More sharing, more even. Be more proactive into the relationship, not just, obeying orders or, becoming like a second person. I'm now more interactive in my relationship.
Good. Let me suggest that coming right from the work that Dr. Ryce and Jeanie do in the Healing Through Relationships workshop, that if you want to have a different experience of life, you have to create a different purpose for living. That comes from Guy Finley. If you want to have a different experience of life, you have to form a different purpose for living. And Dr. Ryce, Michael, and Jeanie talk about in the Healing Through Relationships lecture that traditionally the goal of relationships is how much stuff can we accumulate and how can we prove that I'm right and you're wrong. So let's choose a different purpose for being in relationships, a different goal for being in a relationship. Let's offer the goal be, I want to heal everything that's in me that's less than love. And if that's my purpose for entering a relationship, then every time I get triggered in that relationship to a feeling that's less than love, it's not that person doing something to me, it's a gift from the relationship. It's a gift of awareness to me that I have anger, hurt, fear, sadness, resentment in me, and I'm the only one who can take responsibility for dismantling it and getting it out of my energy system. So thank you for your comments. I support you in wanting to change your pattern of relationship. And I'm glad you were able to make a commitment to 5 worksheets a day for 40 days. And thank you, David, for being on the call, and for Richard for calling in. We've only got about a minute and a half left. Anything to add, Nene?
Well, I look forward to being, next from Sunday with Michael and supporting the group that is coming. And I look forward also to continue doing my work.
All right,
thank you all.
Nene, will you
Yes?
say where this is going to be? Give us some of the details of where Michael's going to be starting Sunday.
Yeah, the Center for Spiritual Living in Fort Lauderdale. It's on 26th Street, and he's going to be in the lecture, 10:30 a.m. And then the Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop starts at 1:30, and that's this coming Sunday.
Great.
And he's going to be the whole week at the Center for Spiritual Living in Fort Lauderdale.
And you can get more details on the website at www.whyagain.com. The travel schedule's up there, the information on the worksheet process, on the link download worksheets, and please take the challenge, pick up the tool of responsibility, apply the tool of forgiveness to your life, and help us make this next year the best year yet of our eternal lives. Thank you for being here. We'll see you on Monday.